All right, let's talk about one of my all-time favorite concepts in psychology and life, and that is the concept of dreams. We all have them. Some people say they don't, but when you hook people who say they don't dream up to an EEG, their brain has the same cycles that we all do. So we think almost everybody dreams. It's just that some of us don't remember them. None of us remember them greatly, so you got to keep that in mind. Again, some of the stuff you learn in this course has been really methodically, scientifically studied using very careful measures. Dreams is not one of those things, at least historically, because in terms of data, the only content we have to go by is what you tell us your dreams consisted of. And our memories of our memories aren't very good in general, and our memories of dreams are not good at all. If you're like me, you've had a dream in the middle of the night that's so cool, it's so interesting, and you remember thinking, "Oh, I can't wait to tell so and so about that dream." And then you go back to sleep, and when you wake up, you can't remember what that dream was about. You know it was super memorable, but you can't, for the life of you, identify what it was anymore. So we have to be really, really careful when we think about the science of dreams. There is some biological data, which we'll get to in a second, but the whole reason we're having this conversation is because of Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud gets credit for a lot of things. He's a very unique individual. And he is one of the first to start thinking about what dreams mean psychologically. So Freud gives us our first dream theory that you'll need to know, and that's the psychoanalytic theory. This theory says that our dreams are meaningful. They are symbolic. They represent things. So if you dream about a big bunch of grapes that's chasing you around your house, well, Freud would say you're probably not terrified of grapes, but maybe you're terrified of your parents. And the grapes represent your parents. So sometimes even in our everyday conversation, you'll tell somebody you're dreaming, and they'll go, "I think that represents that stressful test you're about to take." And we go, "Holy crap, that makes sense." So it's just become a part of our human existence to look at our dreams and to try to find meaning in them. But you got to be careful when you do that. It's very similar to some of the critical thinking things that we talk about in the course in terms of horoscopes and fortune tellers. Sometimes the symbolism is so broad that it could apply to anybody. So you might go to a dream analyzer who says, "I think that cat symbolized change. There's some change in my life." So you just got to be really, really careful. We can find meaning in lots of things if we look for them. All right, so that's Freud's idea that dreams are symbolic, that dreams are meaningful. But the second dream theory says that's crap. The second dream theory is the activation synthesis hypothesis. This one is based on biological data. Now, Freud obviously did not have the technology that we have today, but today we can put you under an EEG while you're asleep, and we can see that while you're dreaming, your brain is very active, which is weird because you're not doing anything. So the idea behind the activation synthesis hypothesis is that your brain combines all these concepts and all these images randomly to explain its activity. Not only that, but your frontal lobe is not very active at all while you're dreaming. And if you remember, the frontal lobe is responsible for intellectual thought, judgments, decisions. Our dreams don't always make a lot of sense. So the activation synthesis hypothesis says that dreams are just random combinations of concepts and images and ideas to explain why your brain is so active. But you're thinking, sometimes I do think that my dreams mean stuff. And that brings us to our third theory, which is a compromise of the two. So Freud, psychoanalytic, thought dreams are symbolic, they have meaning. Activation synthesis hypothesis says that they're random, they're meaningless. But the activation information mode model says that yes, the activation synthesis hypothesis is true. Dreams are random concepts and ideas to explain your brain's activity. But the information that is in your short-term memory, your recent experiences, is more likely to find its way into this random batch of concepts and images. That's why if you go see a scary movie, you may have a nightmare about that scary movie that night, we think. If you have something positive happen, sometimes that will find its way into your dream. So it's the idea that your dreams are random, but not that random. That sometimes information that's been on your mind recently is more likely to find its way into your dream. So again, those are dream theories. Again, we still have a lot of psychological research we can do. We're a little bit limited in how we can measure it, but it sure is fun to talk about. One of the things I'll leave you with is that there are some people, like this guy, who love talking about theory and research and scientific method. But if you have a dream and it changes the way you think about something, whatever caused the dream may not be as important as what you do with your current perception of the dream. I have a good friend of my mother's who dreamed that she quit her job and opened up an antique shop. Freud would say that that was a repressed idea that she had. Activation synthesis hypothesis would say it was just a random image that popped its way into her dream. But whatever the case, she liked what happened in the dream, so she made the decision to start an antique shop. So sometimes the theory about what causes something isn't as important as what happens and what we do with it. So hope you have fun analyzing your dreams now and thinking about why you have them and what they mean.